Authentic Kenyan style goat steak. The irresistible Nyama Choma vibes that nobody can resist finger licking. They say if you can grill goat right, you can grill literally anything. Welcome to my today's YouTube video where I'll show you how we do goat steak grilling the authentic Kenyan way. Smoky, crusty, no blood inside, and tender enough to make you close your eyes after the first bite. Stick around till the end. I'll reveal the secret to that golden crust every grill master dreams about. This is where the magic begins. The marination magic. 2 ways to master flavor. Goat meat is lean, full of flavor, and rewards patience. But first, we marinate. 2 styles. One deep and bold, one quick and tender. If you ask anyone who's been to a jungle safari in Kenya, they'll give you one reason why they miss Kenya, and that's the Nyama Choma vibe. The secret lies in the marination magic. The marination and the tact on how to handle the steak over fire. I'll break the secret today and I'll show you how. So today I have 2 stacks of ribs and also some steak right here, which I'm gonna be showing you how to step by step go about the marination and even the roasting process. So we have some ingredients, and the choice of marination purely depends on the griller, the person that's doing it. You could use so many spices, but then to quantities that are going to be mouth friendly. Today I'm going to be using ginger, coriander, or cilantro. Some of them know it as cilantro, or dania, that's in Kenya. We have black pepper. I'll be using rosemary, some chili, just a small amount, and also paprika, alongside organic cumin and cardamoms. Not to forget the onion powder and the garlic powder. I'll also be using the 42 blade meat tenderizer. This is what I use to make sure that the spices penetrate into the meat. And of course, some natural garlic. This gives more flavor than you can imagine. So I also have some vinegar, sea salt. Some taste of vinegar is really nice, and also some extra virgin olive oil. So I'm going to first of all grate these garlic, onions. I'll later smash them to make sure that they are very, very nice when it comes to the juicing out of the flavor. And I'll get some cardamom, pour some into my mixing bowl, some rosemary. I have about 5 kilos of meat, so I'll just optimize the amount of ingredients I'm going to use. Some cumin seeds into it, the paprika. Now for the chili, I'll do just a tiny bit. I don't want much chili in it. And also some ginger. This will give a good amount of taste. The black pepper is not gonna be left out. I'll put on all these in the mixing bowl, and then the vinegar, sea salt is what I'm gonna measure and pour in. These will be felt from a distance. The coriander will also go in, and I'll not forget to add some onion powder. That's where most of the taste comes from, alongside the ginger. With that in, I'm now going to add some olive oil, and this will help me spread it into the steak. And I'm going to use a petri dish to crush this garlic, But before then, I want to show you how I use my meat tenderizer, the 42 blade meat tenderizer, to make sure that the steak is going to absorb enough of the spices. This is my meat tenderizer. So I'm going to poke holes into it, and this will make sure that the spices will go in so well and reach every single part of the steak. This way, you're going to have a really nice outcome when it comes to the succulence, because you're going to be licking your fingers all through. The steak is going to absorb all these flavors. So I'll do the same to the rib racks. But this is a secret to Nyama Choma. You do not want to roast your meat with all this fat. This fat makes it burn very easily. So I'm gonna peel it off and make sure that I don't have this excess fat. I do not need this fat. So I peel it off and then slice it off as well. Then remember, I'm going to use the meat tenderizer on these rib racks as well, because I also want to have enough of the spices going in. After making sure that all the fat is taken off, I'm gonna use the meat tenderizer on this steak as well. Flip it over and do the same on the ribs. And then I will now be mixing the spices. In my case here, I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna mix the spices. When properly mixed, I'm going to now apply the spices on the meat. And this is now the process of marination. I'll make sure that every part of the meat touches the spice. And I will now leave this to sit. I'll let it sit, and I'll do that in some Ziploc bags. I'll make sure that it sits here for about 2 hours. That's to make sure that it absorbs the flavor and spice. Make sure you do this prior to roasting your meat if you want to have the best flavor in it. So lock it inside the Ziploc bag, and let it sit for about 2 hours. You could put it in the fridge or not, depending on what you want. So we leave it there for 2 hours, after which we are now going to let the flavor integrate into the steak, into the meat. And then that's when we are now going to start the grilling. This is when the magic happens. And you have an option of leaving it there for 2 hours or overnight. You could do that overnight. But remember, if you use vinegar, you do not want to leave it there overnight, because vinegar will actually alter the taste of your meat. So in our case, I'm gonna leave it here for 2 hours, and I'm gonna prepare the griller outside. For melt in your mouth tenderness, swap oil for yogurt. Add lemon juice, turmeric, garlic, and chili. It tenderizes slowly but overnight. That's your secret crusty weapon. This is where the magic happens. For the sake of our video, I'm going to use my CHAR griller. The CHAR griller has 2 compartments, one for the electric and the charcoal. But I'm going to be using the charcoal part of it because the charcoal gives that authentic flavor of steak. If you use gas, well, it's pretty fast, but if you use charcoal, you have to consider that you're going to be using very low heat towards the tail end of your grilling, and this is to prevent burning. You don't want to burn your steak. And I'll also consider to use honey on my steak. I'm gonna brush honey over the steak, but this is only towards the tail end of my grilling, because I don't want it to get burnt and I don't want it to have a bad outcome. So only use honey towards the tail end, about 2 minutes towards ending your process, and that's gonna give you the bittersweet taste when it comes to biting your steak. So I'm now gonna light my fire and then see the preparation. So I'm going to be using the charcoal side. So I'm going to be using the lighter. I'm going to light the fire and let the coal catch the fire. So my friends, remember, coal gives you a very sweet taste of the steak. Don't use gas. If you have time, use coal. That's what I'd recommend any day, anytime. And like when you don't have a lot of time, that's when you can use the gas side. So there's a secret to Nyama Choma that's properly cooked. The heat that cooks Nyama Choma pretty well and perfectly to perfection is that which comes from coal that has already reddened and that is ash-like. That's the one that actually cooks it to perfection. So right now I'm gonna prepare the grill and cover the area in readiness for placing my Nyama Choma over the grill. Remember, with coal, you have to be patient. So I'm gonna let it heat up and give it time to make sure that the coal is ready for us. Remember, the meat is now already tenderized. It's already marinated and has already soaked in and absorbed all the nutrients and flavors that we wanted it to get. So up close, you're gonna see that the CHAR griller has an opening right here, which we wanna open and let air circulate into the grill as the charcoal continues burning. So we wanna have the charcoal completely ready with enough oxygen. Up close, this is the kind of fire we want. These are the flames that we want. This is perfect for the steak. So you want to make sure your meat is dry before it hits the grill. Moisture kills the crust. So take your meat off and place it over the grill. Remember, here patience is key. Place it over it. We have our marinated meat. Can you hear that? That's the sound of perfection starting. Don't move it. Let it sit for now. So you want to make sure your meat doesn't get burnt. So you turn it gently. Then make sure you don't have too much fire. Too much fire is gonna spoil the day. So I'm gonna lower my grill. Make sure it goes all the way down. If you sense that the heat is too much, just take off your steak and place it at the top and let the heat go down first. And that way you're going to prevent burning of your steak. So we keep it there and then we cover it for now. Keep monitoring the temperature of your grill and regulate the heat accordingly. For the video's sake, we have the steak that we're using today is kind of thick. And for thick steak, give it about 2 minutes before flipping it over to the other side, because you really want to have enough fire go into that steak. So now, since the fire has gone down, I'm gonna bring it down here. Remember, patience is key. You have to make sure that you're patient enough to let your steak cook properly. So we're gonna give it some time. And as we do so, we can utilize the other part of the grill by placing something different to cook from up there. These are some sausages, some Italian sausages. Remember, steak takes time to cook, but the secret behind the authentic Kenyan taste in the steak is the marination. Marination and charcoal. Don't use gas for your steak. The reason as to why this steak is kind of getting a lot of flames is because of the fat. Make sure you cut off or trim off the fat if you don't want to get all these flames on your steak. This is how it looks. You want to make sure that it doesn't have a lot of water in it, and if you look at this, there's water dripping and flowing. This means that it needs more time to dry. Dried steak is usually very nice, but at the same time you do not want to make it too dry such that it's gonna lose its taste and be too hard to chew. So give it time. Make sure you turn it slowly and give it time to turn. And remember, fat on the steak makes it burn, so you really don't want to have fat on your steak. Cut off all the fat and make sure that you only leave what you cannot remove. So yeah, patience is key. After the crust forms, slide it into cool zone. Let the heat work gently, and then cover the griller and let the heat do the job. Let the heat do the job. Remember, low heat. So at this point, since we are towards the tail end of our video, we need to apply the honey glaze on top of the steak and let it sit. This will give it a very nice authentic taste. Don't apply too much of it, just a little all around. Flip the steak over and then make sure all parts get it. And just as a by the way, when you're grilling sausages, always make sure you poke holes on them, just a couple of holes to make sure they don't burst, for them to also drain the fluids that there is in them. So flip this steak over and let the honey glaze go around all parts of it. The taste that is gonna be experienced here is one of a kind, because we did the magic which lies in the marination. And you have to let your steak dry. So make sure you utilize the heat that there is, let it dry, and that's when all the fluids will be ejected from the steak, and that's when you'll have the authentic kind of steak to bite. To make sure all the fluids and liquids are drained from the steak, and that's where the taste comes from, the authentic one, if you want your steak properly done. Check frequently to make sure that you don't burn your steak, so keep peeping to see what's happening and let it cook. I'm now gonna bring it down here in readiness for the foil. I'm gonna use the foil, and that will help in the last moments of cooking. So I'm gonna bring up the burner to make sure I utilize the last moments of this heating process. Then prepare the foil. You could slice your meat just to make sure that you're confirming that it's properly cooked. Slice it from here, just slight cuts, just to confirm it's properly cooked, and also let the excess water drip. Let it drain off the meat. Turn it and do the same to the other side. Make sure you do a number of slits on it. Now the meat is more or less done. Now all we got to do is tent it in a foil and let it rest for 10 minutes. That's the perfection of Nyama Choma. This lets the juice drip into the foil and lets the meat dry as well. So you place it in the grill at the top shelf and let it dry off. And that, my friends, is the succulence of Nyama Choma. I wish you were here to smell how it's like. Then close that and let it dry up. That's when the juices move back through the meat. And patience, my friends, creates perfection. So give it time. And just as a reminder, the secret to the Nyama Choma authenticity is the marination. Make sure you marinate your meat. Be patient with the marination process. Let it sit, and that's when you're gonna be getting that succulence that you actually want to have drip into your tongue. So the marination process. The other secret is having very low heat in your Nyama Choma grill. So the grilling process has to call for a lot of patience. Make sure you have a lot of patience in that, and you're going to get meat that's not burnt. You don't want to burn your meat. So at the end of the video, I'm going to be attaching the links to some of the equipment that I've been using here during the process. So get your steak done, slice it into small pieces, serve it with kachumbari. Kachumbari is the mixture of chopped onions, tomatoes, and some cilantro. And then now have it with ugali. You will love this. Yes, that's how we do it. Real Kenyan grilling, fire and heart. I have some onion rings right here, some cilantro, and now the steak that I made. So you can see the outcome. It's not dry, it's properly cooked, and it's definitely gonna be something you'd wanna taste. Because what I taste right now are the spices I used to marinate it with. Oh my goodness, this is really cool. Remember to always marinate your steak really well. Use low heat and you're going to get a very good end result of it. So thank you for watching my video today. If you like this is not the only video I have here. Go back to my channel, watch, and you're gonna see how I made cafecito the authentic Cuban way, and you're gonna love it. Make sure you share, subscribe, and hit the like button. Share it with your loved ones, and you're gonna love it. Let's just show support, and let me know what you'd like featured in my next video, and that's what you're gonna have. See you on the next one.